I've got a good story there where it's a letter dropping one where I had sent a letter to a vendor, and a few weeks later sent another letter because I hadn't heard back the first time, and it was in reference to the first one. And she rang me and she said, I didn't realize you'd sent the first one. I didn't really receive it. I'm glad that you sent another one. And that was a pretty critical sort of deal there. If you have to be consistent, you have to keep going and keep trying.
Well, the other thing is that the other thing. Sorry, you keep going, Cheryl. My apologies.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to say, Jin says that it's like climbing the big mountain. It's like climbing many little mountains. Time to enjoy mountain climbing.
Great, Jin. I love it. And so, or you can climb little mountains, or you can just climb a big mountain, one step at a time. So either way, it's just constantly move forward.
Yeah. Fung said, insert $50 in each letter. We're trying to make money, Fung, from the actual.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Sending
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't do that at all. And here's the other thing with letterbox dropping, and I know we're sort of heading down that rabbit hole, but I just want to say this, that the vendor may not be ready to sell today. So if you only sell it once, everything might be sweet. But in 3 months or 6 months or whatever, circumstances have changed, and I'm not going to go through all the reasons. I think the viewers know the reasons, but things have changed, and so you could be, Johnny or Jill on the spot with your letter because you haven't given up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But Fung, no, don't put $50 in the letter
unless you're sending it to me or Tony. You want our addresses? You can send the $50 to us.
Yeah, thank you. Love it.
That's all
right.
We'll
put the addresses in the show note for you, Fung. Thank you.
I've had vendors. I had a vendor that contacted me probably about, I would say probably 10 years after I dropped a letter. And they kept it because they kept it. We weren't at that point. Our circumstances had changed. Sure. But it does turn up.
It does. Now, motivation. Let's go. Let's talk motivation. Sorry, we'll get on to. Yeah, that's okay. Is there any other questions or comments there, Cheryl?
Let me just scroll through. I know Jin mentioned at the beginning that it's been a big day, and that's the other thing about keeping motivated when you're really tired or not really feeling like it.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay, so that's good. Yeah. So the reality is that if I only did things when I felt like doing them, I would only do things 20% of what I do. I don't always feel like doing the things that I do. Yeah. And that's about thinking bigger than you feel. And that's about saying, I've got a bigger purpose. I've got a bigger goal. Because it's winter. When the alarm goes off, who here wants to bound out of bed, get out from under the doona into the cold, to put their training gear on, to go for a run or to go down to their office or whatever they might be doing? Not many people want to do that. So if you only acted when you felt like doing it, you wouldn't do much at all. And this is the problem. Most people go by their feelings, right? They do things based on how they feel. And I'm saying you've got to be connected to something a whole lot bigger than that, that's further down the road. It's a whole lot further down the road than that particular moment. The other thing, like I said before, it comes down to the seeking of pleasure and avoiding of pain. Yeah, by all means, seeking of pleasure being, I want to stay under the doona, but then also going, you know what, if I don't get up now and go and do that 2 hours or 1 hour of searching for a property, I'm further away from finding the property, which means I'm further away from getting the money, which means I'm further away from leaving the crappy job that I hate. Right? And so you start to link those things together. And so it's like, bang, I'm up and out of bed. Or you could apply the same with your weight loss or your health and fitness. If I don't get up now and do this hour, then I'm further away from where I want to be.
And should we be, and you talk about getting rid of the tough things first, like if it seems like it's a difficult task, and we've got a day ahead of us, getting the exercise done, getting those those tough sort of tasks done to begin with, when your brain isn't quite even thinking about it first, actually helps with that, keeping up that level of motivation.
Yeah, look, could do.
Yeah.
I mean, different people operate differently. So some people like to do some small tasks and have it written down, then put the highlighter through to see that there's some success.
Yeah.
Other people are happy to tackle that big task first and do the more mundane, simple things later. Either way, this is all about self-awareness. So this is all about knowing how do I operate best. Because we're all different, we all operate differently. And so I've given everyone a whole range of different solutions because it's not a one size fits all. So I've had people, I think I may have said this before, I've had clients of mine who set 5-year goals, and I've had clients of mine who set 1-week goals.
Sure.
And anywhere in between because of where they're at. And so the person who set a 5-year goal was a visionary and they could picture themselves into the future. And the person who set a 1-week goal was struggling from an anxiety point of view and couldn't fathom looking beyond 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, couldn't possibly think about a 1-year goal, let alone a 5-year goal. So it's like, we'll just set a 1-week goal. But here's the thing, you set a 1-week goal, you achieve it, reward yourself, set another 1-week goal, achieve it, reward yourself, you start to build momentum, you start to feel better, you start to get some movement happen. Remember, we're creating the routine. We're creating the routine. That doesn't matter how big or how small, right? We're creating the routine.
Sorry, Tony. Mark says, so Tony, what has happened to work smarter and not harder?
Work smarter? Well, it's all about being efficient. I touched on it before we were talking about the whole quantity versus quality. So we talked about there's the quantity side, but then there's absolute quality. And I've talked about it before, Mark, in that if we launched a rocket ship from Earth to the moon and it was 1% off target, by the time it went past the moon, it would miss by 6,709 kilometers. So 1% off target and it misses the moon by 6,000 plus kilometers. So that to me says that if you're off target and you put all sorts of effort in, you're going to end up further away from target. So 100%, you're right, around that whole working smarter. So it's not about busy for busy's sake, it's about productive. And it's about doing things that constantly take you towards your goals. So it's a good reminder to all of us that, Gary Vee, someone who I follow, regularly, he talks about hustle. And I understand the whole hustle piece. And it's certainly about working hard, but it's not about, it's about being productive, not necessarily busy.
Correct.
So work hard, but point that in the direction of where you want to get to, as opposed to being busy for busy's sake. And I see plenty of people in this community and other communities be busy and kid themselves that they're getting closer to where they want to, and they're in fact, they're not at all. So it's a good point. Thank you, Mark.
On that idea of busyness, it's become almost a bit fashionable, because you often have a conversation with someone and you haven't seen them for a while. How have you been? Oh, just busy. And it almost seems like we're accustomed to be in that state of busyness, and just busy for the sake of it filling up our lives to a certain extent.
Well, it's a badge of honor. It's a badge of honor. It's about people wear it as a badge of honor, and it's not a badge of honor. And I used to think like that. I used to work in a corporate role, a very senior corporate role, and I've been in situations where I've been working 14, 15 hours a day, and put my health at risk, put my family situation at risk. It's not a badge of honor. I had to learn that the hard way, but no, it's about how do you be as efficient and as effective with your time as you possibly can be. See, we all have the same amount of time. I think I did this just last week, actually. It was we have 168 hours in the week. We all have the same. It's just that the successful people use their time a whole lot wiser, a whole lot more effective, a whole lot more efficient than the not so successful people.
Yeah, and for those who haven't listened to our sort of earlier series, we had one about time management last week. Last week. So time management, we talked about outsourcing, some ways to really be efficient, because there is one thing, like I said, that idea of busyness is actually something that I'm striving to not be. I don't want to be busy. I actually want to have a lot of time freedom. Time freedom is one of the core purpose of what it is that I do, to have that freedom. So No, I get what you're talking about in terms of that efficiency. Actually, what I have, you probably have noticed, and a few people have probably wondered what these little post-it notes are. I know you're not big on the post-it notes, but this is one of the things in terms of keeping myself motivated, because I'm a very much a visual person. I like to be able to see my task going from this is what I need to do, and it's getting done. So I've got a little thing that says done, and done doing, and then sorry, I've gone the wrong way. To do, doing, waiting on someone, and then done. There's probably nothing there at the moment, but it will be.
No, that's okay.
And then to be able to put on the done section a little reward. So for me, I've used different task management tools, and what I find is that, you know, I've used Asana for project management, but I've actually found that quite distracting because there's so much on it, and because it's on the computer, there'll be different things that pop up. And so if there's certain tasks that I'm focusing on and I want to keep motivated to just focus on that, I put it up on my little Kanban board to be able to say, this is what, and then it actually motivates me because I'm like, ooh, I can move it. So long as my children don't pull it down, it's still where it's meant to be.
So you touched on the fact that I'm not a big fan of post-it notes, but for you, it comes back to the two words that I said before: self-awareness. If that works for you, look, ultimately, what's the ultimate objective? The ultimate objective is not to whether or not you use post-it notes or computers or handwritten on paper or whatever. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that it works for you and that it takes you closer to where you want to get to. So I don't sit there and say, you must not, you know, I don't care for that. I just want to know, what's the system? Does it work for you? Is it producing the outcome, the results that you want? And if it is working for you, awesome. And if it's not working for you, well, that's awesome as well, because we then created a system that will work for you, and whether it be, again, post-it notes, computer, whatever. So no, you don't need to apologize to me regarding the post-it notes, because it works for you. So to keep doing that. And so my message to everyone is to, again, self-awareness, really know thyself, know how you like to operate, what works for you. Don't do a post-it note because Cheryl does it. Use your own system, providing that you get the outputs, you get the results that you want. That's at the end of the day, that's all that matters.